Hi everyone, Mandy with Bloomhouse here, and thank you for joining me for our Easter workshop. Um, we haven't done one in a while, so this is our first one for 2023, and by popular request, we brought one back. So look forward to doing some more of these with you guys in the future. So thank you for being here. Wanted to go over, first of all, what you should have out in front of you. And if you need to pause at any point in time to go and grab some of this stuff, no problem. You should have your vessel that was included. You should have your green foam oasis, and that should already be soaked and ready to go. You should have some clippers. These are the kind that we use here in the shop. And some sort of knife. It doesn't really matter, a kitchen knife, anything that you can cut this foam with. These are the kind that we have here in the shop. Some paper towels, because you are going to make a mess. And I like to have like a small little trash can, so I can just get all my trash off of my workspace and keep things nice and neat and clean. You should also have your little recipe card in front of you. This will show you what your final product should be. It is helpful when you're designing if you kind of have the final design in mind, or if you're really confused about where it is I'm telling you to place it, this is a really good reference. So keep that here in front of you, even after we go through prepping your flowers. So first, before we get to the flowers, I want to prep my vase. So let's go ahead and bring this out. We've already cut this down. This is only a 2/3 of a brick. Usually there's another third right here. You didn't need it. It was a little bit less work. So what you're going to do first is you're going to notice that your foam is a little bit too big to fit in here. And the inside of your bowl kind of contours. So we're going to contour the bottom of our foam to kind of fit this better. We want it to go nice and deep down in there to soak up all the water. So what we're first going to do is we're just going to get it in there and kind of get an overall little shape for it. And that's okay if some stuff comes off on the sides. This is going to be really messy. So now you can see that you've got some like rounded corners here. And we're just going to help increase those a little bit. Water dripping everywhere. So with your knife, we're just going to kind of shave to kind of make this into more of a V shape. And don't worry if you don't cut off enough, don't cut off or cut off too much. It is not a big deal. We just want it to fit down in there a little bit better. So then we can try and fit it in there nice and neat. And that'll do it. And it is okay if it's sticking up a little bit, because we'll use that and we'll cover up all that magic. Now we'll clean up our workspace. Perfect. We'll clean up off the foam off the side of our vase. And that is how we will prep our vase. It is okay that it's not filling up the whole area. That's actually important. So there's room for water to be in here to soak up and hydrate your flowers as much as possible later when you're done. All right. Now the fun part. Let's go ahead and bring out your bundle of flowers. If you haven't already, go ahead and undo the twine around them. And you can discard the twine. And we're going to go through what each of these are. And if you want to pull out your recipe card and follow along, that is always helpful. First on your list is the white asters. And this one in particular is called Monte Cassino. And you should have 5 stems here. Yes, I see my other 2. Next on your list, you've got the purple carnations. Carnations have such a bad rap. These are absolutely gorgeous. They are the Queen of England's favorite flower. You can fluff them up to open them a little bit more, just taking your thumbs and fluff it like this. They come in such unique colors. They come in bicolors. We absolutely love them. They are a really cool texture. And they don't need any prep work. All right, next is your blue delphinium. This one is easy to see. Nice and long stems, beautiful blues. This one is a dark blue, but you will most likely have a light blue in your arrangement, which was by design. We have to work with things of nature and what's available. Then we have our yellow ranunculus. These are beautiful butter yellow, super fluffy, elegant petals, lots and lots of petals. So these are your ranunculus. Next, we have your peach roses. And this variety in particular is called the Phoenix. It's a newer variety, but we are absolutely loving it. It is just the perfect little peach. It's very hardy. It holds up really, really well. And it has a little bit of a frill in the middle. So it's kind of mimicking a garden rose. Next, we have your light pink spray roses. These in particular are called Isles. They are a peachy pink, but they're definitely more in the pink realm. Then we have my absolute favorite, these pink double tulips. They are indeed a tulip, but because they are doubles, they have lots and lots of petals instead of just one row of petals. So these will open up a little bit more like a peony, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. Then we have our Italian ruscus. This is the full green, not the two-toned one that's next. We won't use all of this, but better to be safe than sorry when designing. And then we have variegated Pizzicorum. It's called variegated because it has two different tones on the leaves. Any kind of greenery that is two-toned like this is called variegated. There's a regular one, which of course is not. It looks just like this, but the leaves are different, of course. So now that we have each of our, move these to the side for a second, flowers in their own categories, we're going to go ahead and clean them. That way we have all of the cleaning done before we get to designing. So when we do start designing, all of our creativity, it just pours right out. We don't have to stop and interrupt that creativity to clean flowers. So let's start with the most delicate, with the tulip. So most of these leaves are going to come off. And the way you do it is gently peel where the leaf connects to the stem. Just peel it down towards the bottom. And your fingers need to be right there next to the stem, because if you pull from like out here, it really wants to keep that leaf on there. So it's going to snap in half. These guys will snap really easily. So just be very gentle and very careful. If you have a leaf that's really high up there, meaning it's connected really close to the top, I would say within the first 3 or 4 inches, you can leave him because he'll be this little decoration within. And then look, I got a little bonus flower in there too. So we'll go ahead and just strip all these leaves down and off and discard those. Your ranunculus don't really need any cleaning unless you have some of these erroneous little stems on the side. And again, you'll do the same thing, index finger and thumb, just snap them down right like that. If you have any bad petals on the backside of your ranunculus, don't remove those. As your ranunculus opens up, they'll kind of go to the back and you won't see them. Ranuncs like to just kind of fall apart when you start messing with its petals. If you have any ranunculus that are tight, you can gently blow in a circular pattern to gently open him up. Next, we're going to do our spray roses. And we're going to take off, if you have any thorns, the best way to get those off is to just push with your thumb to the side, right like that, and just snap them right off. If that makes you nervous, you can always use your clippers and clip them off. You're going to strip them of the leaves, all the tiny little leaves, all of them. Then if you have some guys that are kind of below the major cluster, so like these two are below my main cluster, I'm going to cut those guys off and use them as an individual later. And then my main cluster, I want about 6 to 7 inches long. So these guys were way down here, not part of this cluster. So we'll use these as individuals and then a cluster. Do that with your next 2 stems. Okay, and same thing here. When taking a look at this, I can see I've got all my clusters. They're all about right here in the same playing field. And then this guy is kind of lonesome, low and by himself. I'll cut him off and use him as an individual. And then my main cluster, 6 to 7 inches long. Then you also want to take a look at your petals here. If you have any that are damaged, brown, creased, whatever, go ahead and just peel those right off. Clean them up a little bit. If they just have green on them, I would go ahead and leave it because it kind of enhances that garden feel. Shouldn't have to clean up too much. Perfect. Get rid of our trash. Now onto my favorite part is the roses. So you'll do the same thing. If you see any thorns, the Phoenix variety doesn't have a lot of thorns, but if you do, just snap them off and pull off your leaves. Then on up the stem, we're going to get to these little green things. They're called the calyx, and that's where the bud initially formed. As long as they're not broken or brown or damaged, they're perfectly fine. Being up or down does not mean anything in relation to the health or the age of the flower, just how nature works. Any florist who tells you differently is lying. But for example, if you see this guy, he's broken, he's bent. So I'm going to go ahead and snap him off right there because bacteria is already starting to form. So I'm going to take my index finger and my thumb and just peel them off nice and cleanly with no hanging chads is what I call them. I'm going to cut them a little shorter, about 6 to 8 inches long, just because the next part will be a little easier. You're going to want to take a look at your petals around the outside. If anything is bruised, broken, or damaged, go ahead and take it off as well. Now we get to spin our roses. So you put it upside down and in between your hands, and just with a centrifugal force, spin them around. Go as close to the bud as you can to help control it. If a petal flies out erroneously, don't worry, that's perfectly fine. If you still want your rose to open up even more, you can also blow in them pretty forcefully, actually, and help him open up a little bit more. These Phoenix like to be pretty tight, so you can also dig your fingers in the middle in a circular motion and just help him open a little bit. So you can see difference between the opened and the non-opened. Pretty incredible, huh? So go ahead and do that with your next 2 roses as well. Hey, Abby, do you mind changing the music? Thank you. Yay. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video. But look at how beautiful those are. I'm super excited. Alrighty. Next, the Monte Cristo asters. So these are super fun. They're going to give a major garden feel to your arrangement. But as you can see, this is a lot of flowers to go into a vase like this. So we're going to use this technique that I'm describing to you on our greens too, but we're looking for 5 to 6 inch sections. And if you take a look at this, there's a natural break in here where we've got this kind of cluster right here. And then right here, there's a whole lot of nothing. And then another cluster here. So I'm going to cut this stem in half, right where that kind of natural break was. So now I have this stem and this stem that I can use. And if I cluster this guy enough, he'll look very similar to this and can fill in holes. So you want to make sure that you've got at least a couple of inches of blank stem that you can insert into the foam. Same thing with this one. So like I'll probably remove this guy so they're about the same height. And I still have plenty of open stem down here. So go ahead and do that with all of your stems. You start from the top and go down about 5 or 6 inches. Look for a natural break and cut right there. So they all end up being about 5 to 6 inches long. So like this one, he's standing really tall against all the others, so I'm going to take him off. And I'm saving all these little pieces that I pull off because if I need and have a hole later, I can fill them in and use them as an individual. And again, you've got way more than you need here, but better safe than sorry and an arrangement full of holes. The longest part of flower design is preparing everything. The design time is actually not too long. So this guy, this bottom section, he's got really, really long individual ones that are 6 inches or so by themselves. So I'm going to cut all of those guys and use them as individuals because they're too long to use together. There we go. Okay. Beautiful. Now I've got a whole bunch of all the same height asters. And these I'm going to use first. And then I've got a nice little bunch of individuals that I can use to fill holes later. So let's go to our greens now. You're probably only going to need one stem of ruscus, but we're going to do the same thing that we just did. We're going to go in about 5 to 6 inch sections starting from the top. So about right there. I'm pulling the other leaves down and I can see this bare stem. And I'm going to cut right before that next leaf starts. So it looks like It just naturally stopped growing there. And now I've got a little bit of a stem to insert, but I'm going to go ahead and pull off that one last one. So I've got about a good 2 inches that I can put into the foam. The deeper in the foam you go, the more access to water your stem is going to have. So next one, I'm going to go down another 5 or 6 inches and snip. Go down another 5 to 6 inches and just keep snipping. So out of this one stem, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pieces. How cool is that? And then the same with your variegated Pitziporum. This is a really, really, really big stem. So you probably won't have stems quite this big, but we're going to chop this down into 5 to 6 inch pieces as well. So what we'll do is we'll kind of look for these like kind of clustered heads. So like this guy, I'm going to cut off as an individual, but he's still a little bit long. So I'm going to strip after like this kind of V shape. I'm going to strip all those leaves down and use just that top and then get my 5 to 6 inches. I'll do that again for you. So this guy is good 5 or 6 inches, but he's way too long. So thumb and index finger around the stem and just pull right on down. And then, so in here, I've got this guy who, if by himself, would be at least 5 inches. And then I'll strip down. And then this remaining stem, right like that. So you're just chopping them all down into smaller pieces that you can use in your arrangement. Our arrangements at Bloomhouse are nice and kind of tight and compact and not like super far out there and like willy-nilly everywhere. Even though this one is a garden feel, it's not going to be just things poking out all over the place. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. And if it takes you a little bit longer to prep your greens, feel free to pause the video whenever you need to. Rewind, go back, look at things again. You're going to have way more greens than you need. Hey, Sarah. All right, now we've got a good pile of greens. We can actually start designing now. So go ahead and pull your vase back in front of you. And what we're going to do first is a nice little coverage of our foam and our vessel. So the whole point is to make sure that we hide the magic, is what we call it. So we don't want to be able to see the foam whatsoever. So we're going to start with our Italian Ruscus. And if you need to re-snip, that's perfectly fine. But we're going to start off on the sides and then fill to the middle. So we're going to go right like that. And there's no real right or wrong. We just want an even coverage of our greens. And get this out so y'all can see a little bit better. So on the sides, and then we'll put a few, if so you have taller ones, you can put a little bit throughout. And what I was talking about earlier about not being like super willy-nilly is we don't want something sticking up like that. This is a nice, low, tight, compact arrangement. So we're really going to do things just proportional to our vase. So our vase is about 4 inches tall. We're gonna do 4 to 6 inches of arrangement. If you do things even taller than that, then it's disproportional and it doesn't look quite right. So then we're gonna do a few on the side. If you want on your sides, because we're not, again, going too far out on the sides, we can do slightly shorter pieces on the sides. And here I'm doing right above the vase, so right along there, and I'm just kind of going in diagonally, like, so not just down, but to the side. And we're not going to cover the full oasis with this greenery, but the end result will be fully covered. So nice little even coverage. We're kind of getting this dome shape already starting to form, which is exactly what we want. Next, we're going to take our variegated Pizzaporium and we're going to just kind of line the sides. And then we'll go back and fill in a little bit more later. So you can already see, you really can't see our foam right now, which is great. Exactly what we want. We want people to just think this magically happened with no foam. They're just beautiful on their own. Alrighty. So I'm gonna tip my vase. I wouldn't suggest for you to. So the shape of our greens follows the shape of our vase. Oval and, you know, not too far out either way. And then a nice dome shape here. And again, don't worry if you aren't fully covered on your foam. You shouldn't be. We have a lot to insert still. But at least we have a good coverage now. All right. So first, we're going to work with our delphinium. Same way with the asters and the greens, this is way too long for our arrangement. So we're going to cut this down into 6-inch pieces as well. Start from the top down. I'm going to go to about right here and snip him. And then I've got this cool little section right here. Any broken blooms, just go ahead and pull off. So I'm going to come right here and there. So out of that one stem of delphinium, I now have 3 pieces that I can insert and use. So go ahead and do that with your next piece too. If you end up having blooms that are way close to the bottom, like this guy, I don't have enough to really insert into the foam. Go ahead and pull off a few of those blooms there at the bottom. It's super sad because they're really pretty. You can put them in your hair, something. But it's really necessary in order to get this super deep into your foam and so you can stay healthy and alive for as long as possible. All right, now I've got 6 little stems of delphinium. I'm going to start with my bigger floral pieces that were at the top. And I'm going to put some on either side of my arrangement. So if you can still see your foam, where that corner of your foam is exactly where we're going to put it. And a good little 45-degree angle. So it's going to be tilted like this. And push it down to where that first bloom is kind of touching that foam. So we've got them right there. Same thing with the other one. So we've got these two little accents right there. Then your next 4 pieces, you're going to put near there. You can go a little bit higher. And then you can go a little bit lower on the other side. So you've got this nice, good touch of blue. So this was my first one, my second one, and my third one. First, second, third. I know it's kind of hard to see with all the greens in the way, but we'll do the same thing on the other side. One a little bit higher, and one a little bit lower. Make sure you're pushing them in there really nice and good. Okay, so now we've got this really cool blue accents here on our side. Next, everything else we have is in 3s, and that's purposely done. I want you to think of your arrangement as a front, a middle, and a back. All right, and we're gonna basically have an even coverage of these flowers on all sides. So we're gonna start with our biggest flowers first, and then work down to the smaller. So we're gonna start with our rose, and I like to choose the bigger roses for my showier sides, front and back, and maybe the smaller rose would be on my top plane. So really this one's probably the smaller of them. So I'm gonna put him, I'm gonna cut him down just a little bit more. And I do cut at an angle when I cut. It just opens up a little bit more surface area for as much water to be absorbed as possible. And I'm gonna put him right smack dab in the middle. But I want him to be just above my greens. I don't want him to be hidden by my greens. And if that means trimming them up a little bit, that's fine. But I want him just above my greens. Same thing with the ones on the sides. These I'm gonna cut a little bit shorter. And now I'm gonna put this one over here. And I'm doing this backwards. So this should be how you're viewing yours. And I'm gonna do them again at a 45-degree angle. And the way I kind of judge that is I want them facing my face. So if I'm going right like that, that's a good 45-degree angle. And we're gonna do them over here on the side. Again, on your greens, on top of your greens, not buried within. If you get it too deep, so let's say like, oh, it won't let me. Let's say I went too deep and I don't like where I put them. Make sure you fully take him out and make a new hole, because if you pull him out and you've already made a hole, now you can see there's a gap. There's no contact with the foam, and that means there's no water getting to that stem. So you need to make a new hole to where he has full contact with the foam. So now you're going to turn your arrangement around and you're going to do exact same side. So you end up with almost like a ribbon of the peach roses along the side, if you're looking from the top view. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. There we go. So top view, I've got this nice little line across my arrangement. I don't suggest you do that. It gets water everywhere. Next, we're going to do our tulips and then our ranunculus. These are the more delicate flowers. When you go to put them in, it's really important that your fingers are right as close to the foam as possible, because again, they like to snap, they like to break. And if you're running into another stem and you can't go any deeper, pull them out, find a new hole. So if you take a look in your arrangement, we've got some on either side and then one in the middle. So we're gonna help and do that same thing. A good 6-inch cut at an angle. And we're gonna nestle him here just inside of our delphinium. And these will have just a little bit taller, maybe right on par with the delphinium. These are phototrophic, so they will start growing towards a window and they continue to grow inches and inches in the arrangement. So when you're done with your arrangement, notice where they are and then look at it tomorrow, and they will be taller than when they were today. There we go. And let's see. I'm going to put, you can choose where you want to put your third one. I'm going to put mine a little bit lower over here. You can choose to put them wherever you see fit, but I just think it might be nice for mine over here. Perfect. Next are yellow ranunculus, and these we're going to put near our peach ones, not exactly on top, but near. So we've got our spray roses, which will kind of go over here. So we're going to think of our tulips about right here. I'm sorry, ranunculus. And these, again, you want up above the greens so that they have this kind of bounce type feel. You'll also notice that they have kind of a natural bend to them. So you want to work with how they're bending on where you're placing them. So like this guy, I'll probably put like this, so he looks like he's blooming up. I'm not going to put him like this because then he's facing down. It gives the illusion that he's dead. So this one I'm going to put right over here. In between my tulip and my rose. There we go. Man, he does not want to stay where I put him. There we go. Okay, then turn your arrangement around. And I'm going to do the same thing over here and put my ranunculus right here next to my rose. So I've got good coverage of yellow on each side. All right, next are going to be our spray roses. And as I showed you earlier, we're going to put those on the other side of our ranunculus. Cutting it just a little bit shorter. Again, a good 45-degree angle. Filling that last little major gap right there. Next one, we'll do opposite of where we put our ranunc. So he'll go right there in the center on the other side of your rose. And again, you can kind of see this dome taking place. We don't have anything like super sticking up and taking away all of the appearance. We want to be able to take it all in together at once. And then this will go over here. Like that. Beautiful. Now our last big flower to put in is going to be our carnations, and we're going to find the even balance here. So over here, I think I'm going to put here and then up here, and then I've got room on the other side. So you're looking for your kind of last big holes that you need to fill while still having good coverage of color. I'm good. How are you? Good. All right, and then we'll turn your arrangement around. And let's see. Yes, right over here. Perfect. Now, looking over your arrangement, it'll be up to you on if you want to add more greens or if you want to fill the rest in with your asters. I like flowers more, so I'm going to fill in all of my major holes with the asters. I'm going to get this a little closer so you can see. If you have any individuals and you want to fill in a little bit more, you can, but keep them clustered with what you had already done. So like I wouldn't put this spray rose over here by itself. for example. That way we get every little thing used. Okay, so right here, and right here, we've got some good holes that we'll do some clusters with. And I suggest using your clusters first, and then you can use individuals. And this will really bring out all of that garden feel in your arrangement. Choo, choo, choo. Make sure you get these really nice and in there too, because they need water just as much. Oopsie. Choo, 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 choo. And you really can't put too much of this stuff in. It is absolutely gorgeous. And again, it totally just adds to that whole garden feel. If you're down to using some individuals, make sure you strip all the leaves off of the bottoms. And you can put them in as a cluster so that they mimic the rest of them. There we go. And then you go ahead and do it. Don't forget your sides. So we'll put a nice little cluster in there too. There you go. And then go ahead and do your other side as well. If you still have holes after you've used all of your asters, then you can fill in with the rest of your greenery. But you shouldn't have too many holes at that point. Don't forget your top. Doo, doo, doo. Alrighty, this is shaping up so well. Alrighty. Clean up my mess. All right. When you're done, you should have a full coverage. Don't see any foam and an even balance of color on all the sides. The very next thing that you need to do is put more water in here. That way it's just full and full and full, and it'll stay healthy for as long as possible. It's super important to remember to water it each day. In a vessel that you don't see the water, it's really easy to forget. Maybe put a reminder on your phone. Also, your flowers don't like water that's gone through a water softener. We've found that out really quickly when we opened up our retail shop. Water from your hose is honestly the best, or bottled water. Make sure you use the flower food packet that we used according to the directions, and you will enjoy this well past Easter. If you like this, then post a picture and tag us. The tag is on the bottom of your recipe, and that way we can see your beautiful creations and your smiling faces. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you had a great time. We'll see you next time. Happy Easter.